Hello, I'm Janey Marvin.
And I'm Linda Dimick.
Linda and I have been working together since 1991. And in 1993, we started our own company. And around that same time, we began to learn information about how the brain and how the body and how the central nervous system works. And Linda and I have, over the last several decades, learned more about this information and shared this information with others. And I'm very grateful we've been able to do this.
We also are very appreciative of all of the information that we have studied and learned to apply, because it means that we gain greater understandings of ourselves and recognize that truly we can change. Our beliefs, our behaviors, our thoughts are merely programs that can be changed.
One of the awesome things about being able to work with other people for Linda and I has been being able to watch so many people just from having the information about how their brains are working and knowing how to consciously be able to control their own subconscious and change things that they choose to change. And watching so many people coming in being so afraid of their own thoughts or their own feelings, and then learning this information and watching people grow, watching some of our people that we've worked with actually become lawyers, others opening their own businesses. It's just been incredibly humbling to be able to watch these things.
One of the interesting things for me is that once an individual learns this information, it's simple. We really have been utilizing the laws of the subconscious to program ourselves since we were young children. However, we didn't understand. Now, understanding the information and learning the tools and techniques, we, you, I, can take charge of our own lives and cause to happen the very things we choose.
We all have automatic responses to different kinds of sensory stimuli. Whenever a door slams, we might get a startle reflex. Whenever a phone rings, we might begin to look for the telephone to answer it. Whatever sound or smell or taste or sight, texture, whatever sensory stimuli, over a course of time we begin to have an automatic response to different kinds of sensory stimuli. We actually chose on a conscious level the sensory stimuli and the automatic response that we would then have to the sensory stimuli. Oftentimes, especially when we're younger, other caretakers of us are very involved in the different sensory stimuli, and then oftentimes also the automatic response. Our subconscious gets programmed with the sensory stimuli in the automatic responses through a thing called repetition in compounding. Repetition is just the repeat of different kinds of sensory stimuli and responses. The repetitions generally to just begin to have an automatic response from a sensory stimuli is generally about 5, 7, or 9 times repeated. The compounding plays into the repetition by being a break in between the repetitions. This is the concept where they get the term compound. It's the pause in between the repetitions. Recently, there's been research in different major universities using an fMRI machine that has found that the longer the compound in between the repetitions, the faster the automatic response comes out. Still, how we're going to do this to show you how to do a sensory-based automatic response, we're going to do this in just a few minutes. We're not going to take a long time in between. When you choose to do some of these on your own, you may look at taking longer periods of breaks for the compounding of the sensory stimuli and the automatic responses. What I ask you to do is place yourself in a comfortable position and determine a response that you would choose to have. A response such as hope, confidence, courage, willpower, joy, a happy face, laughter, anything of a positive basis that you choose to have as a response. And so in a minute, when we begin to do this, we'll just do this with a one sense, the sense of touch. Now, other senses can also be automatically programmed. For this technique, we're just using the sense of touch. So decide two things. First, what it is that you would like to have as a response more often than you get. A positive response. Then determine where on your body you choose to touch yourself, because we're using the sense of touch to get the automatic response. Oftentimes people might grab their earlobe. Some people will just maybe touch their elbow. Some people maybe will just put two fingers together on one hand. You choose the area where you will use the sense of touch to program the automatic good response that you're seeking to have access to as an automatic response from your sense of touch. When you've determined these two things, think of a time in your life from your past where you had the very thing that you would like to program now as an automatic response. Joy or confidence, willpower, knowledge, laughter, whatever it is that you have chosen as a good automatic response. Think of a time in your past when you had this, if even for just a very short time, even just a second or two. And if you can't think of a time in your own past when you had this thing that you would like to have as an automatic programmed response, think of someone else you know that has had this that you saw. It can even be someone in a movie you've seen or a book that you've read where someone had this very thing that you would like to have as an automatic response. And if you have to just clip portions before and after out, so there's just even a few seconds of this very joyful good thing that you would like to have as a response, then do so that you can just focus on this very thing that you would like to have as an automatic response. and focusing on this memory, whether yours or some of someone else's, or of a movie or a book. Imagine or pretend to imagine exactly how it felt to have this very thing that you would like to have now as a programmed response. Imagine what the thoughts the person had might be. Imagine body sensation of this person or this memory of having this good response. And imagine a knob where you can even turn this response up even more and touch the spot where you have decided to touch to get this response, and continue to focus on the thoughts and the feelings, the sensations of having this very thing, and imagine while you're still touching your spot, turning the knob even more intense, even more good thought, even more good feeling with this programmed response, even more good sensation regarding the response you've chosen. And as this response continues to increase and increase, while you continue to touch your spot, to have this response, the moment this increase begins to ebb down, let go of your spot and completely break your state. This is the part that is the compounding. So look around, notice other things, hear other sounds. If you choose, you could even walk around for a moment to make sure that you're completely out of the state of the programmed response. And when you're completely out of the state, the thoughts and feelings and sensations of the programmed response, we'll do the response a second time. So once again, remember a time, either in your life or in someone else's life that you know, or from a movie or a book, where this very programmed response that you're seeking was happening, where all that you're seeking is happening, even if just for a few seconds, and focusing on this memory or this part of someone else's life or movie or book, focusing on all of this, noticing the thoughts of this programmed response. Notice the sensations of this programmed response. Notice the feelings of this programmed response. And imagine turning the knob up so it's even more intense than it was. And now touching again your spot and holding your spot and imagining turning the knob even more intense, even more powerful thoughts of this response, even more sensations of this response. And again, the moment these peak, begin to ebb down, release your spot you're touching. And once again, break your state. Get completely out of the thoughts and feelings and sensations of this programmed response. One thing that I enjoy doing at times when I do this with people to help them break state is I'll begin to smell my index finger and I'll pull an ugly face and sniff my index finger again and pull another ugly face and then look at someone and ask someone, "Could you smell my finger? What's on my finger?" That's usually a good way that I've helped people break state. And when you're completely out of the state of this response we're programming, get another memory, either of your own or from someone else, or of a movie or a book where a person had this very response that you're now programming. And focus just on the actual experience during this response you're programming. Noticing the thoughts of this response, the feelings and sensations of this response, and notice how good it feels to have this response. And imagine turning a knob up so it's even more. And now touch your spot that you're touching again. And imagine turning the knob even more so the thoughts and the feelings and the sensations are even more intense with this response you're programming with this touch spot. And the moment this increase begins to ebb down, release your touch. And once again, break your state from this programmed response in any way you choose to break your state. You can think of a joke. You could walk around or look around. Change your focus consciously to break your state. And then, if you would please, imagine a time from your past where having this programmed response could have helped you. Even just a short time from your past where if you had been able to have this as an automatic programmed response, things would have been better. And when you're focusing on this memory from your past where this response could have helped you touch the spot for this response and notice the thoughts, feelings, and sensations from this programmed response. And then, if you would please, think of a time in your future where you can imagine an experience where being able to have this programmed response by touching this spot might help you. And when you've imagined a time in your future of an experience of your future where this programmed response could be beneficial and help you, watch this future experience and touch the spot where you've programmed this response to have, and continue to watch this future experience with this programmed response. You can continue to repeat the process of repetition in compound. We did this the minimum number of times. 3, 5, 7, and 9 are the minimums of programming for an automatic response. You can continue to repeat this. You can do this with other kinds of responses that you choose to have. Remember to use this programmed response. The more you use it, the stronger the trigger and the response becomes. Repetition, repeat, repeat, compound, spaces of time in between. Thank you.